preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! 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 ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Welcome everyone to this special edition of the Renegades Reviews. In addition to being right here on the Castilian Studios as we are each and every episode of the Renegades Reviews, today we are also being featured on the Jeff Meacham Network as good old JM presents his thoughts on the Disney Plus exclusive documentary Mickey, the Story of a Mouse. Once again, everybody, welcome to this very special edition of the Renegades Reviews here on the Castilian Studios, as well as the Jeff Meacham Network. I am, of course, Jeff Meacham here on the Renegades Reviews for the first time, I think, ever. I've done this by myself without JJ being part of it. And the reason I was granted this opportunity was because we are reviewing a very special documentary about a very special character in all of our lives here at the Casa, here at the network, and, of course, in our lives, period. Mickey Mouse, of course, last Friday celebrated 94 years since the premiere of Steamboat Willie. Of course, that's also Minnie Mouse's anniversary, and despite what the company will not put out there for whatever reason, I don't even know, and I work for the darn company, Pete, also, Peg Big Pete, Black Pete, Captain Pete, whatever you want to call him, is also celebrating 94 years. So congrats to everybody involved with Steamboat Willie, of course, Walt, everybody there, the entire company. And of course, we're coming up 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. Of course, we're starting that big celebration officially in January and then beyond. Anyway, so Mickey, the Story of a Mouse. We've been hearing a lot about, as far as we, and I say we with pronouns, pal, we within the company, we within cast, and we as fans have been hearing about this documentary that the company's been producing for years, and we finally got our first look at it, of course, Friday morning on Mickey's birthday, and I'm not really sure how to. I know usually JJ will go into the synopsis of a movie. He'll talk about, the plot. He'll talk about the intricacies of the story contained therein. But with a documentary, it's a little bit of a different layout, I guess, because you really have to talk about the story behind the story. And I think that's what this documentary did. It was very much about Mickey and his story and his evolution over the last near century. You figure 94 years, it's 95 next year. I hope I look that good when I'm that old, right? 94 is a long way to go for me. I'm getting ready to hit 40. But a lot of the documentary is also the story of Walt and his youth, of course, in Marceline, Missouri. We've all heard about that, many times over the years throughout the course of Disney history, and how he would have this tree out in his yard in Marceline growing up, and that would be his solace. That would be his place to kind of detach from the reality of life. A strict father, a kind of a low-income upbringing, JJ, I think, would call it Walt's Woo-Saw Place, if you know the history of that term when it comes to Disneyland and myself and him. But from there, we go right into it. It's of course, the now infamous story of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit being created by Disney for the use from Universal Studios, excuse me. And that kind of got ripped out from underneath Walt's and his team. Matter of fact, a lot of his team also left when Oswald was taken completely out of his control back in, I think it's in 1926, 1927 or so. It was not too long before the actual debut of Mickey, but Mickey had to be developed as a result in secret because the company, Walt, was still contractually obligated to finish the Oswald shorts. And so what I didn't know, one of the first things I found out in this documentary that I didn't know prior to seeing it on Friday, was the original Mickey shorts were created inside Walt's garage out in the valley. So it was interesting to find that out, that the original Mickey shorts, I'm Playing Crazy, Galloping Gaucho, and of course this one, Steamboat Willie, were developed very much in secret, very much under the radar, so Universal and the like could not discover it was being made. That way Mickey could not be usurped from the company as Oswald had been. I love the story, by the way, of the company getting Oswald back in a trade for Al Michaels all those years later, so Al could do Sunday Night Football with John Madden on NBC. I thought that was funnier than hell. Anyway, and then the rest of the documentary, and again, I looked forward to it. I watched it at midnight. I was still on property after my shift, just waiting for the premiere. I take it back. Thursday night I was not on duty, but I was on property. I was still there. I had celebratory drinks with a dear friend. You guys know Jenna. But I watched it as soon as I could, and I liked it. And it goes into the story, of course, of, Steamboat Willie getting the distribution after Playing Crazy could not, after Galloping Gaucho could not. And Steamboat Willie was a hit. It was right off the bat, people loved it. They loved the syncing of the sound, which had never really been done before in movies. You had the talkie, of course, 1925, I believe, the movie with Al Jolson came out, but there hadn't been a fully synchronized sound and motion animated picture. So this was new. And it definitely caught the eye of the world, especially here in the United States when it premiered. And Mickey was a hit. And then he kind of just ebbed and flowed a little bit over the years. And people automatically assumed that Mickey was a hit the entire 94 years of existence. That simply was not the case. And one of his greatest roles, matter of fact, is Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia. Beautiful, artistic vision realized, and one of the greatest things Walt had ever done, but financially it was a flop. And the documentary really allows itself, the company allows itself to be very aware of the fact that it was touch and go quite a bit with Mickey and with Walt and the company as well. And Mickey very much took a back seat a couple of different times, despite belief to the contrary now in 2022 that he's always been the mouse. He's always been the guy out front. When Snow White was being developed in the late 30s, Walt very much poured everything he had into that, and Mickey, damn near went into non-production during the course of being of Snow White being made. And as Mickey's public perception grew in the 30s and into the 40s, especially with the war and everything, World War II being a thing, and him being that symbol for children that had to, kind of toe the line, that is why Donald Duck and Goofy were created. I know this is going to piss off a lot of Donald Duck fans, a lot of Goofy fans that think, oh, they're original characters, and that, they complemented Mickey. And they did, to the point of, Donald and Goofy were featured with Mickey much, much more than Minnie as time went on. And Minnie herself took a back seat for quite a while. But the reason Donald and Goofy were created, I actually found this out in the documentary too, is because Donald needed to be that channel, that little funnel of anger that Mickey couldn't show, that little sneaky, little devious side, the exasperated side. Very much Donald Duck. And Goofy had to become almost the clown rather than Mickey being constantly in comedic peril. Mickey had to be the straight man. Mickey had to be the role model, the example. And Walt and his team went, we better do something about this, because we can't have our guy be, too vulnerable, too easily weakened. So Donald and Goofy, the extremes, if you will, of Mickey, as far as the exasperation, the anger, the frustration, the troublesome, and then Goofy, who was just a complete goof, and a clown. That's where they went, and that's why. So those two things I found out as far as the where the early Mickeys were rendered, and then of course the creation of Donald and Goofy because of Mickey's public perception changing and him becoming very much a symbol of the company. I know it's going to be kind of short because it's about Mickey, so it needs to be a short. They also talked with different animators that are part of the company now. Adam Goldberg, primary among them, he was a big discussion point. He was part of the discussion, during the course of the film. He and two other animators actually developed a Mickey in a Minute short. It's literally a minute long. It starts with Mickey walking down the halls of the animation building in Burbank. Of course, everybody's familiar with the Roy E. Disney building in Burbank. And if you're not, you should be if you're a Disney fan. That's just the way I feel about it. Anyway, and Mickey's kind of looking over the posters of his career, and I remember this one, and this is where this happened. And he gets sucked into a vortex through the poster, and it literally takes us through his entire career. The band concert, Brave Little Tailor, Fantasia, of course, and the different milestone moments in Mickey's career since 1928, and it ends with him at the wheel of the steamboat, and as he goes to whistle, credits. That's it. Very cool little short that they create, a short within the movie, a movie within a movie that they were talking about developing, and through the development of that minute-long short, they told the history of Mickey. I thought it was a cool little, cool way to tell the story of a mouse. So I recommend it. I was hesitant. I watched it a couple times. I watched it Friday when it dropped, and I was very tired. I fully admit that I was exhausted when I watched it. So in hindsight, I probably should have waited until I went to record, which, as I'm recording this, it's Saturday, between Waking Up and Full Gear, which was on our presentation on Saturday. But I watched it back, and I enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it. I know, JJ, we always do a star review, or a number of star review as of on Renegades Reviews, so I will very easily give this 4.5 out of 5. I won't give it the full 5. I know it's going to piss off the boss and whatever, but I think that there was a lot more of the story behind the story that they could have told, which is why this is going to be so short, because there wasn't a whole lot. And I know I admit to being over obsessive with the boss, but there's a lot that the general public even already knew. So I was honestly looking forward to more of a learning more about what I didn't know, and it kind of fell short for me on that, right? If that makes any sense. So I do recommend it if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, or if you're not, I would recommend finding a way to get your hands on it, because it is a cool little story. If you don't know the complete story of Mickey, this is a great little tool. It's an hour and a half long. I think it because it's an hour and a half, it could have been a little more detailed as opposed to seeming like it was dragging at times, but I enjoyed it for what it's worth. So again, grain of salt, whatever you want to call it. I feel my opinion about Mickey is pretty valid, pretty important, because I've been such a fan my entire life and I've run the brand, and Now I'm part of the Magic, right? So 4.5 out of 5 from good old JM. What did you guys think of the documentary? What did you guys think of today's episode? Like I said, I know it's running short, so I know JJ tends to sometimes go longer, even shorter sometimes. So he will be back tomorrow with more of his Sandra Bullock week coming up in the this week. He's also on Thursday. We're gonna go ahead and you saw the trailer earlier where he's gonna finish off Sandra Bullock month, this week and into next week, because I guess the end of next week is December. But more Sandra Bullock movies. There you see what's coming up here on the Casting Studios tomorrow, and of course on Friday, and then into next week before he starts his December movie reviews, which include the classic Rankin Bass movies, of course, Frosty, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and everything from Rankin Bass is coming up starting at the end of next week, and then The Grinch next Saturday, along with the first new release movie from Saturday for December for JJ, featuring Miss Lindsay Lohan, who, of course, part of our Disney family as well. So check out everything coming up. Of course, this Thursday is Thanksgiving. We wish you all a happy Thanksgiving from the Jeff Meacham Network and, of course, the Casa. You can check out JJ's first review of the Santa Claus episodes, which we'll be covering. I believe he's covering only the first episode, because there were 2 that dropped last week. So I believe he's covering just episode 1. So check that out on Thursday. Of course, if you guys were watching the Casa earlier today, Stat Boy Sports Bar dropped today at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, so go back and check it out if you missed it. Hopefully we'll get Stat Boy back at his regular times here soon. My schedule's been so crazy at Disney, it's been hard to sit down and produce the show live at 7 Eastern, so we'll try to get Mikey back on track. No Talk Wrestling tonight. Again, I am at Disney tonight, so there will be No Talk Wrestling tonight or next week. So keep it in mind over at the Jeff Meacham Multiverse of Media. I thank you for letting me break into your Tuesday, and I thank JJ for letting me have the Casa space, if you will. Much appreciated. It's always cool to talk about Disney, especially on JJ's channel, because he's my Disney buddy. He officially labeled Disney my Wusa place, and I think that learning about Walt and his Wusa space in his youth and that tree, and being able to sketch and just create out of that mind of his, and what led to the mouse, the one that started it all. So thank you all. We will see you tomorrow with Renegades Reviews and everything else here on the Casting Studios. Of course, this coming Saturday is the Survivor Series, so be sure to check it out. I will be there for Survivor Series. Full show. Of course, we're going on the air at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific with our pre-show. I'm sure WWE will have a pre-show too. They always do. 8 o'clock with play-by-play Eastern. Of course, 5 out here for Disneyland time. And then open mic night immediately after Survivor Series. Probably a little break in between. But we will be on the air all week long. This is the last week of official full week of November. And the Casa is going out with a bang. We've got a full week scheduled for you guys. So stay tuned right here on the Casting Studios for each and every episode of Renegades Reviews, as well as the special editions and our pay-per-view / pre-live event coverage. For JJ Williams and everybody at the Casa and at the network, I am good old JM, Jeff Meacham. We will see you guys next time right here on Renegades Reviews.